Welcome back everyone to another Steel Division Normandy 44 replay cast. This time we have a 2v2 on KRPK Airfield. So, it is going to be a 2v2 between Andre, as I will be calling him, playing as the 6th Airborne, and Super Evil Mega Nazi, playing as the 15th Infantry. Not as the Nazis, interestingly enough. On the Axis team, we have Dead President as the Panzer Lair and Medicine Man as the Luftlande. Lovely. And yeah, so Dead President going with tons of half tracks. Of course, he's the Panzer Lair, so he's gonna have a pretty decent early game, kind of hampered by a bad income and low unit count, but with decent units. I see what they're doing. So they're doubling up on one side for some reason. It seems like both of the Germans don't really have the best possible coordination. Yeah, that president is not happy. He wants, you know, he wants Medicine Man to go on the other side of the map. Whatever. So clearly they're not a team. Andre, lots of jeeps with recon units. So going really heavy on the recon units, and then 2 Tetrarch CSs with the howitzers for infantry support, lots of Tetrarch Little Johns, some mortars, so lots of specialized units from him, and Super Evil Mega Nazi going with, well, it looks like just your standard mechanized push strategy in the early game, with the MMG carrier, and of course lots of little vehicles like the Churchill 5 with the howitzer, 2-inch carrier with the mortar, and the Honey Stewart. So I'm predicting that the left side could go pretty well for the Allies. On the left side we have a pretty thick smattering of woods and also a town, and in the center we have the airfield with both its cover around the hangar areas, and it's of course open ground near the actual airstrip itself. And on the right side, we have some more hangars, more buildings, some woods, and a pretty huge open area. So both sides not really conceding much to the other, just leaving a lot of the right side open. In fact, I think that all these airborne scouts might be partially because he's kind of afraid of a big push coming in from tanks in the early game, so he wants to be able to see them coming. I'm not sure. The Little Johns really do kind of tell me that Mr. Andre was really afraid of a big tank push here. 2 Tetrarch CSs should be enough to pretty much punch through the right side, possibly even before this wave of reinforcements emerges for the Germans. On the left, we have a pretty huge spam of Fallschirmjägers from the Luftlande, and that's going to run right into the Honey Stewart and hopefully for the Brits, the Churchill 5 as well. So while there's a lot of infantry on the left side, the Allies are pretty well prepared with anti-infantry units. They've also got the 2-inch mortar carrier, which is very, very powerful, and of course they're going to be able to use it as quickly as possible, already lobbing some rounds right up against the Fallschirmjägers. The Germans do have a couple of artillery pieces in support, it seems. They have a Panzerwerfer and an FK-39. Also quite a lot of pack guns, looks like 4 packs already, so they're pretty well prepared for vehicles in the flanks and for enemy infantry. There goes one of these scouts, completely obliterated by the Panzerwerfer. Panzerwerfer probably is going to be firing against these rifles next. In the center, the Brits are doing pretty well, but of course, with only infantry in the area, they're not really going to have as much of a pushing power to take over parts of the right side because of its, terrain. It's completely open. On the left, we have a bit of a push from these riflemen trying to get into cover to push back these German infantry units, and it's doing pretty well. The problem is the artillery pieces from the Germans are going to be able to respond soon enough. The FK-39 is firing on the Churchill, trying to panic it, and it's not really working out, so the Churchill and the Honey Stewart really laying down a lot of fire on the Germans in the area. No planes yet from the Luftlande, which is surprising considering the fact that there's a Churchill 5 and a Honey Stewart in one area. I would have liked to see a Henschel coming in and destroy these 2 vehicles. They also lack infantry support for this little wood to the left. As it is, these Fallschirmjägers can just sneak up to the Honey Stewart and the Churchill 5 and easily take them both out. So I would like to see Super Mega Evil Nazi to be a little bit more, I guess, cautious with his... you might be hearing things. That is the wind just, like, destroying everything in my room. And we do have a plane coming in. It's an ME-109, however, and it doesn't really do much. So that is kind of unfortunate. So the Germans are still pushing on this side. The problem is... fucking alarms. The problem is they don't really have the way to get past all these vehicles that the British have. So I would really like for these Germans to get out some kind of AT and bring it up. Or maybe even in... yeah, I was thinking about potential too, but there's 2 Spitfires from Super Mega Evil Nazi just loitering about. What I would have done if I was him is have one of the 2 planes loiter around and then have the 2 take turns so that they don't both run out of fuel like this at the same time. So that you always have at least one in the air to force back any bombers. That was just my little thinking there, but oh well. On the left side, Breaker's machine guns not really going to be able to stand up against the German push, unfortunately for the Allies. And now, well, yeah, on the right side there's nothing happening really. Sometimes the Allies seem to be attempting to push in, setting on fire a few buildings. Here comes a bit of a German air push with a couple of ME-109s, although these ones are with the light rockets. So since they're pretty ineffective against armored vehicles, they're only going to be able to really panic them and not actually kill them. AVRE for Super Mega Evil Nazi, doing quite a good job, of course, in this close range building area. There it goes, completely demolishing that hangar building and kind of making these Panzergrenadiers feel the wrath of King and Country. Whereas on the right side, it seems like the British do have the upper hand, partially thanks to their very, very good fire support on the area with mortars, Tetrarch, CSs, and now they're coming in with extra infantry reinforcements. So it seems like the British will be able to push ahead on the right side finally, which, well, before they were really lacking in ability to push on the right side, but now they might be able to do that. This, in fact... oh, come on. This time I'll stop, actually. Okay, alarm is finally gone. And yes, so I was saying, they really need to push on this side. I also noticed that it's actually a destruction game. And the Allies are doing pretty well. Of course, on the right side, Dead President, who's defending in open ground against infantry attacks, is doing a little bit better. And this kind of also explains the aircraft purchases, because of course, aircraft are pretty good at killing enemy troops without themselves being shot down. But yeah, these allied fighters are definitely in trouble. Here comes a couple of Focke-Wulf 190s. One of them goes down and the second one likely to follow suit. With 5 enemy fighters in the air, in fact 2 of them being multi-rolls, 4 of them being multi-rolls, the Allies really are feeling the pain, and that brings the Germans up to 715 points, and that was not what I wanted to do. And of course, now the Allies are going to have to be even more aggressive on the left to try to sort of counter that. Now, I see that the Medicine Man is going for a lot of these Panzer up there. Holy shit, this is so annoying. Yes, he's got a fair few of these anti-tank recon units. And why is there no sound? Okay, good, there's sound. We're fine. And yes, while those are good, alone they're pretty vulnerable to something like this, coming in with the rifles, although... wow, the 4 MP40 is actually managing to defend themselves quite well. And now they're able to fire on the Churchill because it's just in range for the Panzerschreck at 200 meters. There goes the Churchill, definitely paying for itself. So that was a pretty good little engagement for that. Here also comes a bomb, taking out another recon unit. So the Germans are doing pretty damn well at this point. They've got a fair number of kills on the Allies. And see, the thing is, this is entirely due to the fact that this is another type of game mode, Destruction. And the Allies really aren't playing well for destruction, they're playing well for conquest. In fact, there goes 2 more Tetrarchs to the attacks of these Me-109 rocket planes. What you want to do in destruction a lot of the time is that you want to take one position, hold it, then bring out a lot of high value units that don't themselves die but kill a lot of enemies, right? So something like the AVRE is good, but then bringing out huge loads of actual infantry, not quite so much. Also, what? The Panzerwerfer just fired on his own guys. Interesting. Yes, and well, if you do that, then you're still going to have a sort of positive kill-to-death ratio. It's going to be easier for you. And in fact, it seems like the Allies are bringing out lots of AA guns to shoot down planes. There goes a Mosquito, unfortunately, so even more points going to the Germans. And yeah, especially when the enemy has air superiority, you do not bring bombers. And you try to bring as many counter units as possible. So for example, if you see that the enemy has a lot of vehicles that are good, you bring out some tank destroyers to at least stop them in their tracks. If you see that the enemy has a lot of infantry, you bring out artillery. This really does explain the early purchases of artillery from the Germans. Especially with that Panzerwerfer, they've been able to flatten some of the infantry offensives that the Allies were able to put together. And in general, yeah, they... Ooh, 2 Jagdpanzer IVs I think are a little bit too much. I mean, clearly they're there to counter the Churchills, and I guess that's an okay little move. It could be worse. Churchill 5 also managing to get its gun trained on some Germans. That's good. And the Allies are still pushing in. Of course, because they have the map control, they have more point income. But that doesn't really mean much when you are losing more people than the enemy, because that of course means that the enemy is going to have the victory in the end in destruction. It's only about how many people you kill versus how many you lose. So in general, yeah, the Allies playing well, just not for the game mode. It's very weird. Now they are also going in with a lot of Typhoon ATs, of course very, very strong against enemy vehicles, but at the same time, yeah, they have to be really careful about the German Air Force. I guess these Tripolsons can still try to shoot down some of the German planes in general, but yeah, with the German artillery existing, the Tripolson's lifespan is going to be pretty low. Also, these Bofors probably going to die really quickly. Now here comes the Typhoon AT spam. I think that now that they know that this Flak 88 is over here, they should be marking it and going after it instead of going after anything else. Because the Flak 88 is also like 135 points. Yeah, 135 points. So just going in and taking out the Flak 88 should probably be their main priority at this point. And yes, also Honey Stewart coming in. Still very, very close. There could be a German unit hidden like about here, and that could spring a trap and kill the Honey Stewart. So the Allies really need to be careful about sending their vehicles into towns and wooded areas. At this point, however, they seem to have sort of settled down into a position that's defensible and that they can use to cause some casualties on the Germans. Remember, if the Germans get pushed back to base, essentially, however many points they have, they're probably going to lose anyway, because at some point, the Germans are just going to start spamming units to, in a panic, force the Allies back from the positions that they've taken up. So they're going to be starting losing people like mad. They have a Befils Tiger now, so that's pretty bad for the Brits on the left, for the Scots, because of course this one really doesn't care about any of the AT units that the British have on the field. There's 2 AVREs. They're going to be way, way inadequate against the Tiger. There's 1 6-pounder. That's also very, very inadequate versus the Tiger. Especially the Tiger can get a good engagement at long range. That's not going to go in the favor of the AT gun. And yeah, I'm thinking that the Typhoon ATs can try to do something, but with the Flak 88 being alive and with the Typhoon's not really trying to take advantage of the fact that there's a Flak 88 there to come in and destroy it for some reason. Yeah, this is not going to be good for the Allies. Here comes Typhoon Run, again turned away by the Flak 88. In the meantime, pretty big air battle on the left side. The Germans seem to be winning this one as well. Some bombs falling on the German troops, but unfortunately for the Allies, it's the Allied planes that are retreating, and so of course the German fighters, very luckily for the Allies, don't chase down and kill the last remaining Allied planes. And yes, so the Germans are still pretty much, yeah, they're pretty much got 2 times the points that the Allies do have. A Challenger was called in and it was destroyed without mercy by the Baptiste Panther or the Yak Panzer IV, one of the two. And yes, so lots of high value units going down for the Allies, and all of their infantry also going down. It means that pretty much, yeah, there is nothing that they can do at this point to stop the tide of Germans. The right side sees a pretty big surge in Allied troop count, but I mean, the sum of all these units that are here on the right side for the Germans must be around 250 points, and so even if they all die, this is still not going to be that big of a loss for the Germans. They also have a 242 for some reason being brought in against Challengers. That's definitely not the best possible choice. On the left side, the Typhoon ATs, yes, those can do something against the Tiger. They can essentially make it retreat, and then, of course, that can be followed up by something else. In this case, the 17-pounder. 17-pounder also shooting at the Yak Panzer IV and missing, incredibly enough, due to all the panic that is on Shaken, so that, of course, decreases the unit's accuracy, and there it goes. 17-pounder, also pretty expensive unit. Must be around 120 points. Or, no, I believe it's 130. So, not the best possible loss for the Allies. Of course, no loss is the best possible loss, but especially something expensive like a 17-pounder when you're facing lots of enemy vehicles, you don't want to lose that. The Allies also have a 25-pounder on the left side. This is a unit they should have brought out a little bit earlier, I think, because at this point it's not going to be that much use with big tanks rolling down the fields. But earlier on, it would have been very, very useful to try to counter some of the German artillery pieces and, of course, the German infantry, because there were a lot of Fallschirmjägers in the area. Here comes a big bomber, Junkers 88, gonna definitely take out that 6-pounder. Oh no, it actually was aimed at the Churchill. So the two sides' air forces are still doing quite well, but the Germans are still about 2,000 points ahead of the Allies. Not really much that they can do. There goes a pack, the airborne stolen pack. Of course, Tripolson's managing to get some suppression into the aircraft, but here comes another aircraft and pins down the Tripolson for the strafing runs to come in. Doesn't kill any man, but still panics it down, and of course, that's going to allow the plane to escape quite safely. In the meantime, the Germans are bringing in their tanks. They're doing the same mistake that the Allies were doing earlier, bringing them into an area where they don't really have a lot of line of sight, and they could be ambushed by enemy infantry pretty much all around. The difference is they're fighting the British and not the Luftwaffe, or of course also the Panzerlehr, because both of these divisions have infantry units with anti-tank, whereas the British don't really have infantry units with AT weapons. Especially because, well, they've also run out of infantry, but yeah, even if they did have infantry, they would be pretty much defenseless. And I'm not sure what all these tanks are doing for the Germans, but I kind of like that he's not standing into one spot, and by he I mean that president with his big armor swarm, because if he was standing in one area, then I guess that would allow the enemies more time to sort of plan some way to destroy him. And of course, by moving about, it's a little bit harder for the British to be predicting where the German tanks are, and of course, the superior armor comes through and destroys all of those poor Churchills. And the Wolverines coming in are not going to be able to respond. So yes, really the main problems for the Allies was the fact that, well, they didn't really play... they didn't really shift their play in regards to the mode, because if this had been conquest, then they would still be winning. what's funny is that, yeah, they pretty much would have won because they were pushing on the right side most of the time. They were pushing also on the left side for a pretty good amount of time, and then they had this huge bulge in the center that they were able to secure. But of course, this wasn't conquest. It was destruction. And so the Germans knew that they could just let them capture this entire central area and bleed them out with artillery there. They knew that they could just hold them into the one patch of woods that the right side has to offer and let them come. And they also knew that on the left side, eventually, they would have the time and resources to bring out the big swarm of heavies, come in, destroy everything, use in the meantime the very cost-effective Fallschirmjägers to take out both vehicles and infantry, while the Panzerwerfers and the aircraft worked at getting the big point counts. So yeah, I want to thank you all for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.